Okay, so the long-awaited anime for the Dr. Stone manga is finally here, the Dr. Stone anime, and I ain't gonna lie, I will definitely say one major thing about this series that, for the most part, I don't really feel with too many series except maybe like One Piece, really has my attention, and it's not something that you would ordinarily expect. Again, One Piece is an exception and an exceptional writing, and Dr. Stone definitely got me with that. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the characters, the world, and just all around what's up with Dr. Stone. Is it worth it? The anime, I believe there's 3 episodes out right now as of the recording of this video, and yeah, just let's get a little scientific, shall we? I really got to come up with some less corny intros, but yeah, let's jump into it.
Whether Facebook, Twitter, or the two, make sure to steer clear, cause I'm coming through like...
Okay, so if you haven't heard of Dr. Stone, it's a new series from Shonen Jump. I believe the manga is about 100 and some odd chapters in. The anime, as of the recording of this video, is about 3 episodes in, and it's a very different type of shonen. Now, normally people are immediately expecting like big action battles and big fights and stuff like that, and Dr. Stone isn't really that. I believe it's from the creators, 2 creators. One of them is the creator of Sunken Rock, a very awesome, very well drawn manga, and I'm not really familiar with the other one, to be honest with you, but I know that when I first read it, I didn't know what to expect. I mean, the main character kind of looks like a Super Saiyan 2 Gohan with his hair, or well, one of the main characters, Senku, and I didn't really know what to expect. And again, if you're coming into this expecting something like a Fire Force where you got like, you know, these big battles already, or just any of the typical shonen battle, you might be disappointed, because it's not, well, where, you know, the first few episodes anyway is not that per se, because the plot of Dr. Stone in a nutshell is that one day when this guy named Taiju is going to confess his love to a girl, I believe her name is Yuzihara, something along the lines of that, the whole world just turns into stone. Everybody gets petrified into these stone figures. There was 2 characters that was introduced up until that point. There's Senku, which he's kind of like a scientific kid. They're both, I believe, in like high school or whatever, middle school or high school, but there's Senku, and then there's Taiju. And Taiju, he's going to confess his love, kind of feels like, you know, typical whatever, almost feels like a romance in the beginning if you think about it, because he wants to confess his love. Today's the day. And then again, the whole world gets petrified into stone. 5,700 years pass, and they're still stuck in stone, till finally Taiju breaks free, and he sees that Senku has been broken free for about 6 months, and they're the only 2 people on this entire planet that have been set free. So pretty much all of humanity up until this point for 5,700 years has been stuck in a petrified stone state, which already, I have never read that in manga. I have never read that or seen that in anime. I haven't seen it yet. So if you want some originality, right then and there, that plot synopsis, I haven't seen anything like that. Especially the fact that it's taking it so into the distant future, like almost 6,000 years. That's a long time from now. So I was really interested and fascinated of the plot, even when I read the manga back in the day, because I thought the manga was pretty sick. But the anime, I was just like, whoa, okay, so we got a almost 6,000 year time skip. It was interesting that while Taiju basically was able to keep his consciousness because he was thinking about wanting to confess his love, which honestly, it kind of feels a little bit like you stood with your brain intact for almost 6,000 years because you had a crush on a girl. I don't know. Senku, on the other hand, I rock with Senku. Maybe that's just my preference between the characters that we had introduced, because Senku, I like that he's very scientific. He's a man of science. He doesn't leave anything to chance. He usually just has a plan of some sort. He's not the brawn, because Senku's the mind, you know, he's the brains behind it, and essentially Taiju is the brawn to be able to defend them and whatnot. So, you know, you see that basically in the beginning of this, well, with episode 1 at the very least, they're trying to survive and rebuild humanity. Again, very, very different. I love, you know, when a story just takes a small concept of like, well, I guess that's kind of a big concept, but takes something and makes it vastly different. I was really, when I read the manga, like, this ain't gonna last too long. This is too original, too different, too awesome for it to last long. And I'm pleasantly surprised that it lasted long enough to get this anime, because I was like, yo, this is something that I love. And one of the major things, what I talked about in the intro of this video, that this has me excited for, is the world building, because it reminds me of manga that constantly get canceled, to be honest with you, early on, where we just have this whole different planet, opposed to like just having a typical like, oh, it's set in modern day society or modern day Japan, which it starts off that way, but once we get the giant time skip, it's like, yo, we're in a whole different ball game. They're trying to rebuild society to high school kids. It's freaking crazy. So that already was enough to make me excited. Don't get me wrong, I'm not the biggest fan of Taiju just because he's like, oh, I'm doing this all for my crush or this girl that he doesn't even know if she might like him back. You know what I'm saying? For all you know, she can get on Petrified and be like, yes, that Senku guy. Yo, come over here, Senku, let's go mate. You know what I'm saying? But either way, still very, very fascinating and different. Then once we free another person, that's where I'm kind of like, yo, this is where it's getting hype. Because don't get me wrong, it was interesting seeing the two of them trying to survive, you know, trying to cook, trying to make a serum to basically restore humanity and stuff like that. It was different. It was not the same shonen stuff, which you get tired of it after like 150 freaking shonen anime. You want something a little bit different, and Dr. Stone delivered just that already with the premise alone. But then you got Tsukasa Shishio. I'm a little conflicted with the character, right? Because he gets introduced and he's like one of the martial artists of like the school. He's like the strongest boy at this school. Remember, these are like high school kids at best, right? That's as old as they are. So, you know, okay, you're like, he's gonna be another warrior to help them out. But this dude comes out and he starts bodying lions. And I'm like, okay, wait a minute. Like, whoa. Martial arts can only go so far. So I'm on one half, like, this feels like, don't get me wrong, the whole premise is unrealistic of like, hey, everybody turned to stone and was shot off into the future. But at the very least, it was still grounding everything but that aspect on reality of like, Senku's just a really smart guy. You know, Taiju is just a really loving guy and he's trustworthy and they're buddies. It just felt like, for the most part, aside from the main element, everything was still based on, you know, things that in the normal world, you know, again, aside from the whole world turning to stone. You understand what I'm saying? And then this character shows up and he's just kicking Lion's ass and like a warrior. And I'm like, okay, it does feel unrealistic. Maybe there's a major explanation for it, but it definitely felt unrealistic. So I'm kind of conflicted. But at the same time, I'm like, yo, dude's a badass. And I love Senku's skepticism. While Taiju is the one that he's going to kind of fall for anybody, whatever they say, and he'll ride along with it, Senku was skeptic from the jump. And then when they were both kind of conversing of like, hey, you know, if he doesn't, because he's freaking strong, like, what the hell is going on that he's kicking lion ass? I wish it would have been something a little bit different. Maybe if it was just like one animal that wasn't so freaking crazy strong, because come on, like human, you know what I'm saying? But like if it was one animal that was, you know, kind of strong, not really, and Taiju and Senku just couldn't do it, and then they freed this guy and he did it, it'd be different. So, and I'm not trying to complain because it's freaking awesome, but it does break away from a little bit of what it felt like everything was grounded to still science reality minus the petrification. Then you put this guy in there, so it's a little bit, but it serves a very good purpose to put somebody else that has different ideologies. Because while Senku and Taiju, they're kind of pure. Senku, he's just like, hey, I love science, but I want to restore humanity. I want to bring everyone back. Taiju, he got that big crush on Yuzihara, and he wants to bring her back. But they both are with the same mind of like, okay, we're going to restore humanity to the way it was. This guy on a different story, though. That's a whole different story, because he tells the story of when he was younger and how he wanted to essentially bring some shells because his little sister, I think, was sick, and you know, he wanted her to feel like a mermaid, and an old man stopped that dream and kind of, I think, beat the crap out of him or something. So you see that he's very bitter with the elderly, and it's kind of interesting. I've noticed in shonen manga lately, they're making the youth have like such a rebellious attitude toward their elders. So, you know, you get that aspect, but then on top of that, it's just so conflicting when he chops that old man, the one that stopped his dream from when he was younger. When he chops his head off, it's like, yo, okay, now we have conflict. Now things is changing up dramatically. Now we have somewhat of a threat, because if all three of them would have worked together, because he's like, hey, I'm going to be the hunter, I'm going to be the warrior for us, don't worry. It still could have been interesting, don't get me wrong, because there's plenty of things out in the world to fear. There's sharks, there's like, you know, lions, tigers, bears, oh my, you know, there's so many things that they'd have to overcome, trials and tribulations. But on top of that, it's just in general trying to restore the world. But now you take this character and you start making him a little bit more like, whoa, his ideologies is way far left, because Senku and Taiju ain't gonna, you know, really stand for what he's trying to do. He wants to kill all the old people and only restore the youth, and his ideologies is gonna clash. So very freaking awesome setup. Honestly, I will say with Dr. Stone so far, I am very, very impressed that if there's anything you could say about this series, is that it is something you more than likely have never experienced in shonen anime regarding just the whole theme of it all. Like, yeah, okay, and that's why I keep on harping on Taiju, that it just feels like, hey, he has a crush, and yeah, he's trying to help out Senku and restore humanity, whatever. But then you add in the Shishio guy, that he's kicking lion ass, he has a whole different ideology. How do you stop him? Like, you know, if this guy really is like, okay, I'm gonna kill all of you, screw it, I'm gonna do this myself, you really can't, because this dude is just, he's a monster. He's kicking lion's ass. Like, I can't get over it. He beat up a lion and carved them out. Like, and it also shows, though, because, like, when you look at the character, you got to think of it like this as well. He did honor the lion, and he kind of, so it's more so just that he has this bias based on his old, or, you know, previous encounters with people that are older, and, you know, kind of just seeing the corruption of the world. So you can't even really say that he's like, you know, oh my god, he's such a villain, because in his mind, he's thinking, I'm doing the right thing. Hey, I want to restore people, but I only want to restore people that haven't been tainted by society like adults. So very, very interesting concept. Honestly, Dr. Stone right now, very hype. I ain't gonna lie, very hype. The first episode really wasn't too much, honestly. It's one of those things where at least watch the first 2 to 3 before you make up your mind, because first episode, it was just like, okay, you know, they gotta bring back humanity, okay, they're making serums, okay, things like that, they're making a hut, and it probably wouldn't be the most exciting for everybody, so I'd recommend watching at least a couple episodes in a row before you make your judgment. But Dr. Stone right now, if you want originality, you want something different, it does have comedy, there is a bit of action, but it's not like mainly battle oriented like, you know, most shonen. It got you. It got you. And I'm glad, because, like, don't get me wrong, I love me some shonen. I think Fire Force is a really awesome and dope anime that I'm enjoying like hell right now as well. But Dr. Stone is just giving me something that shonen manga or shonen anime don't really give, and that's like a brand new, whole different world. That world building, I'm loving it. The characters kind of restarting society. Senku is still my favorite. I ain't gonna lie, I love Senku, his design, the way he thinks. Senku for the win. But Dr. Stone, baby, like, this is hype, but in a very different way. I'm kind of curious, though, for people that have seen Dr. Stone thus far, what is your thoughts on it? Do you feel as though it's not action-oriented enough for it to be a major success? I think that the fact that it is something different the way it is, if anything, is one of the biggest strongholds that it has, and the biggest hope that you could have for it to succeed. Because right now it's like, I don't have anything that I could even remotely compare it to it. Like, the best thing I can say is that the world building reminds me of, like, the one shot of a manga called Hungry Joker. Like, really just crazy and insane, because, again, this is almost 6,000 years into the future with none of humanity touching this world. So you got wild animals, all sorts of shit. Also, Dr. Stone, favorite character thus far? How do you think things are going to go with Shishio and his motives? What do you think about Senku? Taiju, Senku, who's your favorite character? Again, I'm not a big fan of Taiju at all. He feels very vanilla. Senku, on the other hand, and even Shishio, really dope. And if you haven't seen Dr. Stone thus far, based on how I described it, do you feel as though it's not for you per se? Maybe you want more action? I think as we continue, there will be more action. Like, the first piece of action I remember was when Shishio just started bodying those lions, which is why I keep on harping on it. Like, how is he doing this? How is a high schooler kicking lion ass? What's going on? And your overall thoughts and expectations for the future of the Dr. Stone anime? Definitely gonna keep on watching this one. I really want to see where it goes. I want to find out what happened. Here's my crazy theory, and I'm nowhere near caught up with the manga, so who knows what characters and what plot twist we're gonna have, but I'm betting there's a possibility maybe Senku had something to do with this whole thing happening in the world. Maybe he was working on an experiment that went totally wrong and he turned the world into stone, and he's not gonna tell Taiju that immediately. So that's my crazy theory. And yeah, Dr. Stone anime, you want something different? Go check it out. But that's all I have for this one, though. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. If you liked anything I had to say or enjoyed the video, drop me a like. I'd greatly appreciate it. And if you want more from me, make sure to subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram, hit the bell to get all notifications. And if you want to follow any of my other social media, links of course in the description below. I'm Forever World, and as always, people, have an awesome day, and remember the golden rule: anime and manga for life, boy. Bow. Have an awesome day. Can't forget the music, though. Hold on, let me play y'all a little something.
Paper rules, if you heard it, best believe that. For now it's whatever. One day I'll be your favorite for never.
No matter how you move, get it done. No matter